Alright, listen up warriors. If you're diving into Project Mugetsu, you need to have the right weapon in your hands. This game is packed with epic battles, legendary Ashikais, and all the chaos you'd expect from a Bleach-inspired RPG. But let's be real, without a solid weapon, you're just asking to get bodied. So whether you're slicing through enemies like a true Soul Reaper or just trying to survive out there, picking the best weapon is key. And that's exactly what we're here to do. In this video, we're breaking down the ultimate Project Mugetsu weapon tier list. We'll cover the strongest weapons, the ones worth grinding for, and of course, the ones you should definitely avoid. No fluff, no filler, just straight up facts to help you dominate the battlefield. So, if you want to stop losing fights and start winning them, stick around because this list might just change the way you play. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking weapons in Project Mugetsu. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Byakuya's sword, dual guns, and handgun. Alright, let's talk about the weapons in Project Mugetsu that you should probably avoid unless you're feeling extra adventurous or just enjoy making the game harder for yourself. Seriously, some of these weapons are so weak they might as well be decorative items. Let's break down the absolute bottom tier choices, starting with Byakuya's sword. Now, I know what you're thinking. Byakuya? That sounds cool, but don't get too excited. While it does have a decent skill set early on, its pitiful ++ 0.8 damage modifier makes it a joke in the later stages of the game. If you want to feel underwhelmed every time you swing a sword, this one's for you. Next up, we've got the dual guns, and oh boy, where do I even start? These things have 0 buffs, terrible DPS, and just feel clunky to use. You'd expect dual wielding guns to at least bring some sort of flashy rapid fire action, but nope, it's just disappointment wrapped in a common weapon drop. Honestly, you'd be better off throwing insults at your enemies because that might do more damage. Unless you're doing some kind of challenge run where you purposely pick the worst gear, stay far away from these. And finally, we have the handgun, which is basically just the dual guns but somehow even worse. It has no buffs and its damage is so low that by the late game, you might as well be shooting air. I mean, if you want to roleplay as a detective solving crimes instead of fighting enemies, maybe you could justify using it. Otherwise, it's just a waste of an inventory slot. So yeah, if you ever find yourself holding any of these weapons, just do yourself a favor and swap them out ASAP. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Gold Blick and Anoitra's sword. Oh boy, if you're looking for weapons that almost make the cut but just don't hit that sweet spot, welcome to the C tier struggle. These weapons have potential, but they come with enough drawbacks to make you think twice before committing. Let's break down a couple of them and see if they're worth your time in Project Mugetsu. First up, we've got the Gun Blick, a legendary drop with a tiny 0.2% chance of getting your hands on it. And honestly, it's pretty solid if you're all about long-range, high DPS gameplay. This thing melts bosses with precise shots, making it one of the best single-target weapons in the game. The problem? Ammo capacity. If you're facing multiple enemies or need to handle AoE situations, you'll be reloading more than you'd like, and that can be painfully slow in intense fights. Then there's Noitra's sword, another legendary weapon that swings fast and hits hard. It's got a + 1.5 damage modifier, which means every hit packs a serious punch. If you're a fan of straight up melee combat, this one can hold its own in duels. But here's the kicker, it has almost no AoE capability. If you're surrounded, good luck hitting more than one enemy at a time. The range is also pretty meh, so you'll need to close the gap before landing hits. It's fun, but compared to higher tier weapons, yeah, it's missing that extra oomph. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Easter Sword, July 4th Gauntlet, Yuaka's Base Sword, Baragon's Axe, Yamamoto's Cane, and Unohana's Sword. Alright, listen up, warriors. You ever find yourself stuck in Project Mugetsu, staring at your weapon and thinking, man, I need something better, but I don't want to spend my entire life grinding for an S tier? Well, my friend, you're in the right place because today we're diving into the B tier weapons, the ones that pack a punch but don't quite break the game. They're solid, they get the job done, and with the right playstyle, they can even outshine some higher tier options. First up, let's talk about the Easter Sword. Now, don't let the festive name fool you. This thing can slap in a fight. It's a solid single target weapon with a decent DPS boost thanks to its +1 damage modifier. But here's the catch, it doesn't do much in terms of AoE. So, if you're the kind of player who likes wiping out multiple enemies in one swing, this might not be your best bet. However, if you're a duelist who thrives on one-on-one combat, this sword's got your back. Now, for all my AoE enjoyers, the July 4th Gauntlet is probably more your style. This thing is all about spreading the damage. With a +1 damage modifier, it boosts your DPS decently, and if you position yourself right, you can take out groups of enemies at once. The only downside, it doesn't have much range, and it's kinda meh when it comes to single target fights. But hey, if you like causing chaos in a crowd, this is the weapon for you. Moving on, we've got Yufachi's base sword. This one's pretty well balanced. Nothing crazy, but nothing bad either. It's got a +1.15 damage modifier, which gives it some extra oomph in fights, and its skill set is decent. The main problem, it's unobtainable right now, so unless you already have it, tough luck. And even if you do, you might find that its versatility is a little lacking. It's one of those weapons that's good, but you always feel like it could have been just a little bit better. Alright, let's talk Yamamoto's sword. Now we're getting into some legendary territory. This bad boy is a 0.2% drop, so yeah, good luck getting your hands on it. But if you do, you'll be rewarded with some seriously good AoE damage and burn effects. The downside, it's kinda clunky to use, and in some situations, it just doesn't feel as effective as you'd hope. Still, for AoE focused players, this is a solid option if you're willing to grind for it. Next up, Baragon's sword. This is your single target powerhouse. It's got rot status effects, meaning your enemies will be suffering over time, and the +1.5 damage modifier ensures that each hit stings. But like Yamamoto's sword, it's stupidly hard to get and completely lacks AoE. So if you're more into dueling and boss fights rather than crowd control, this could be a great choice for you. Last but not least, we've got Unohana's sword, another legendary weapon with a massive +2 damage modifier. That's no joke. This thing hits hard, making it one of the best single target weapons in the B tier. But as expected, it has its weaknesses. It's hard to obtain and doesn't have much in the way of AoE skills. If you're looking for a weapon that just lets you bully opponents in 1v1s though, this is it. So there you have it, the best of the B tier. These weapons aren't perfect, but with the right strategy, they can definitely carry you through some tough fights. Whether you're an AoE spammer, a single target specialist, or just someone who likes experimenting, there's something in this tier for you. Now, the real question is, which one are you picking? The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Excalibur, Madara's Gunbai, and Jinjo's sword. Alright, listen up, because we're about to dive into some of the craziest weapons in Project Mugetsu. And I'm not just talking about your average run-of-the-mill swords, we're getting into the real deal. The weapons that only the best of the best can get their hands on. If you've ever wondered what makes these A-tier weapons stand out, sit tight, because we're breaking it all down. First up, we have Excalibur. And no, this isn't just some fancy name thrown on a sword to make it sound cool. This thing shreds. It's hands down one of the best single target weapons in the game. The damage modifiers, +2. The actual DPS, a ridiculous 3.5 damage multiplier. If you're the type of player who loves deleting enemies with raw power, this is your dream weapon. The only catch? It's a ranked exclusive weapon, meaning unless you're sitting at the top of the leaderboard, you can forget about getting your hands on it. Now, let's talk about Jinjo's sword. If you thought Excalibur was the only heavy hitter, think again. This one's a bit more versatile, packing strong close range DPS and long range capabilities. That means whether you're up in someone's face or slicing from a distance, you're still putting out some serious damage. It's got that sweet +2 damage modifier as well, making it a solid choice for players who like flexibility. But yeah, you guessed it, it's also a ranked exclusive weapon, so unless you're grinding at the top levels, this one's staying out of reach. Moving on, let's talk about Madara's Gunbai. You know how most weapons make you choose between AoE and close range damage? Well, this one says why not both. Not only does it have powerful melee attacks, but it also dishes out some serious long-range AoE damage. That means if you're the kind of player who loves keeping enemies at bay while still wrecking anyone who dares to get close, this is your weapon. Like the others, it boasts that +2 damage modifier, making it a real threat in skilled hands. And yeah, spoiler alert, this is another ranked exclusive. You probably saw that coming. The biggest downside to these weapons? Accessibility. These aren't weapons you can just grind for and eventually unlock. You have to be a top tier player to even have a chance at wielding them. That makes them super exclusive, but it also means that if you do manage to get one, you're instantly standing out from the crowd. If you ever see someone flexing an Excalibur, Jinjo's sword, or Madara's gunbai in your lobby, just know they earned it. So, are these weapons worth chasing? Absolutely, but unless you're planning to sweat your way up the ranked ladder, you might want to set your sights on some more obtainable options first. Still, if you're a competitive player looking for the best of the best, these weapons are A tier for a reason. Let me know in the comments which one you'd go for if you had the chance. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Goku Black's Scythe, and Waiwaksha's Battle Sword. Alright, listen up, because we're about to talk about the absolute best weapons in Project Mugetsu, and when I say best, I mean weapons so powerful, they make everything else look like a butter knife. These are the S tier weapons, the kind that can turn a decent player into an unstoppable force. If you manage to get your hands on one of these, congratulations, you've basically unlocked God mode. First up, let's talk about Goku Black's Scythe. This thing isn't just rare, it's straight up unobtainable now, making it one of the most exclusive weapons in the game. If you were lucky enough to be part of the tester reward, you know exactly how broken this thing is. We're talking 3.5x damage modifier, which is just insane. And the skill set? Best in the game, hands down. Whether you're fighting a single opponent or wiping out a whole group, this scythe shreds through everything in its path. Now, if you're looking for a weapon that's actually still possible to get, though barely, Yhwach's Battle Sword is where it's at. With a 0.2% drop chance, this thing is ridiculously hard to obtain, but if you do manage to snag it from the Yhwach event, you're in for a treat. It's got a 2.75x plus damage modifier, and the mix of AoE and single target attacks makes it one of the most versatile weapons in the game. Whether you're farming, PvPing, or just flexing on people in the lobby, this sword is an absolute menace. So yeah, if you somehow have either of these weapons, you're basically one of the chosen ones in Project Mugetsu. These aren't just strong, they're game changers. Whether it's the impossibly rare Goku Black's Scythe or the insanely powerful Yhwach's Battle Sword, both of these weapons will put you at the top of the food chain. If you don't have them, well, time to start grinding, or praying, probably both. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.